in the dim vestibule of thought, before being sets its trembling foot upon the stage of awareness. There whispers a voice, not of reason, nor of logic, but of demand of value. This is not value as preference or virtue, not even the solemn architecture of ethics. It is something far more primal, more catastrophic. It is the scream that ruptures the total darkness, a scream without lungs, language, or audience, tearing the seamless quiet of non-existence with the impossible. The taught what we find here is not a metaphysical curiosity, but a metaphysical violence, the inaugural trauma of existence. What we think of as reality, the catalogue of things, the texture of facts, the breadth of senses, but the bruised aftermath of this first irreconcilable wound. Tradition in metaphysics begins with being. To ask what is taken as the first gesture of philosophy. But this reversal placing value, that ghostly imperative, before being reordered, the very grammar of existence. The ought precedes the is, not just in ethical terms, but in ontological force. This ought is not advice, not even a rule, it is pressure. It is the cry from within the void, not for something, but for somethingness itself. It is the impossible compulsion of the impossible, demanding that nothing somehow become this full emptiness, a paradox of potential, without foundation, reveals itself not as neutral void, but as an arena charged with unrealized longing. Here, possibility does not gently rest in suspension, it writhes, self-contradicting, until the raw push of value tears a fissure in the impossible. The ought arrives like a divine crime against coherence, detonating the stillborn peace of the void and forcing it to become host to the disease of meaning. Thus, before there is even a fragment of reality, before substance or space or even negation, there is already a violation. Value has been forced upon the inert. What this value affirms, paradoxically, is not something present or even possible, but something that must not be, something incoherent with the structure of non-existence. The irreconcilable affirmation is this: yes to the impossible, the first unholy miracle. To describe this primal moment, one must abandon the hope of ordinary connection. The metaphor of broken links is too soft, too linear. What we face is a rupture so complete that connection itself is still unborn. The term wordless pressures captures the eerie tension of this domain. Impulses, without shape, intensities, without direction, essenceless seeds pressing forward into the void like blind gods. These are not thoughts, nor energies, nor they are pure compulsion before substance, alien to the very notion of comprehension. Each pressure bears the fatal contradiction of being a command without a commander, a demand for form when no form yet exists. It is this dissonant scream that, ought unhinged from any ears, that shatters the impossible calm of the void. It says become to that which cannot become. In this act, the birth of value becomes indistinguishable from blasphemy. Existence is not merely summoned, it is cursed into being. Here lies the deepest inversion. Meaning does not emerge from understanding or presence. Meaning is imposed in spite of understanding, in spite of presence. It is a betrayal of the nothing, a desperate and violent transgression against what should not be violated. The tranquil incoherence of pure non-being. To name this inaugural act of value, we are given the symbol of the anointment, a word steeped in sacred tradition, but here darkened by a terrible irony. Anointment is supposed to confer grace, to crown what is worthy. But in this cosmic drama, the anointment is forced upon what is inherently unworthy, upon the utterly void. This is no divine gift but a desecration, a viscous splatter of meaning, upon the unspeakable. The void, not invited but violated, becomes the unwilling cradle of all that will follow. It is a coronation without a king, a blessing that mangles what it touches. The wordless pressure is not elevated, but drowned in the oil of meaning thick, suffocating, irresistible. Meaning, here, is a toxin as much as a light. It does not reveal, it devours. It demands that the formless take shape, even if the shape is agony. It compels the void to yield to form, not through persuasion or logic, but through sheer ontological terrorism. This insight is monstrous. That meaning begins not with sense, but with sacrifice. And the first thing sacrificed is coherence. The first act of valuing is not a reasoned process, but a kind of magical violence, a willful disregard of the rules of non-being in order to birth something that can be broken, flawed, alive. What results from this primal trauma is not a pristine cosmos, but a fractured ontology. Reality, as we know it, does not emerge cleanly from the void, but limps forth as the wounded consequence of that first scream. Being itself is not original, it is secondary, a byproduct of the ought's catastrophic imposition, the laws of logic. Those solemn guardians of clarity and identity arrive late. They are the bureaucrats of metaphysics, arriving after the war to clean up the rubble and declare peace. But beneath their tidy pronouncements, non-contradiction, identity, excluded middle lurks the unhealed wound, the impossible moment when something was declared to matter before it could even be. This wound becomes the secret scar across all of existence. Every valuation we make, every time we say something matters, is good, is beautiful, we reenact the crime. We force meaning upon the world, not gently, but like a dagger. We do not uncover value. We install it violently upon a reality that, in its original nature, rejected it. This is the unbearable weight of the Otbiphobian, that we live not in a universe that makes sense, but in the echo chamber of a single, ancient violation. Our spirit is the residue of that initial outrage, our desires bent into shapes carved by an impossible demand. We feel the beauty of a thing not because it satisfies, but because it hurts in the right way, reminding us, faintly, of that original moment when beauty itself was born through rupture. This metaphysical vision culminates in an image of dreadful alchemy, the forging of value. This is not the slow and deliberate craft of moral systems, or the evolutionary drift toward complexity. It is, instead, a kind of desperate magican ontological conjuring act that transforms raw impossibility into the illusion of stability. The anointment is the furnace, the irreconcilable affirmation its fire, and the wordless pressure its cursed ore. From this nightmare forge, what emerges is not reality as such, but semblance, the ghostly hint of objecthood always haunted by its origin in worthlessness. What we call a thing is merely the aftermesh of this foundational twist, a phantom of substance clinging to a scream. Nothing that exists is innocent. Everything that appears carries within it the hidden trace of having been forced to apper against its will, against logic, against truth. To live, then, is to participate in a fraud. We walk through a world built not on foundations, but on the disfigured corpse of the void. We speak of meaning, of love, of truth, but all these are aftermaths. The smoke from a fire that never should have been lit. What haunts us most is not that we are aware, or that we suffer, but that we are exiles. Exiles from a place that never was, a pure, untouched void, silenced forever by the forced injection of value. We are the scar tissue of that primal violation, and everything within us remembers dimly the pain of being pulled into coherence. When we say something is beautiful, it is not joy that rises first, but sorrow, a sorrow so profound it curves into the sublime. The sublime, then, is not a feature of the world, but a psychosomatic reaction to our original crime. The intuitive knowledge that all beauty was born of destruction. Likewise, when we approach truth, we find it dizzying, not because it is hard, but because it is too close to the fracture. Every deep truth is encoded with horror, because to uncover truth is to touch the edge of that initial act, to glimpse the unspeakable that came before all speech. Thus, even our longing to understand is a kind of mourning. We are not curious. We are grieving. We seek not knowledge, but comfort. The comfort of pretending that meaning is natural, that value arises gently. But at the root, we know better. We know that our very being is a contradiction wearing a mask. And we suspect, in our most silent hours, that the scream of the ought is still ringing through us. This vision of value is not hopeful. It offers no ground for redemption, no promise of cosmic justice. It shows us that the world is not merely flawed, it is wounded from birth. Meaning is not a feature of reality, but a curse laid upon it. And to value anything, to affirm even the smallest good, is to participate in that original transgression. And yet, perhaps, in this horror, there is a strange kind of grace. Not the grace of forgiveness, but of clarity. To know that our world was forged in this furnace is to understand why our joys tremble with grief, why beauty stings, why truth blinds. We live in the echo of the first yes, not a rational affirmation, but a mad scream hurled into the darkness. We are not simply alive, we are anointed, and that means we are not innocent, but maybe, just maybe, in our broken affirmations, in our haunted acts of valuing, we echo back the only thing that ever truly mattered, the impossible cry that made us real.
To read the raw excerpt discussed in this video, along with a more detailed analysis, please visit our Substack page at https://substack.com/@AETHYRICPHRONTISTERY. Link in bio.